Let me be straight, which is kind of ironic with what I'm about to say next. I enjoy my doctors the same way I enjoy my men. Wearing gloves and incredibly professional. Both for the exact same reason. One, when a man's making sweet, vicious, barbaric love to me from behind, it's technically not gay if we don't touch, hence all of the rubber. And two, it's also extremely gay to go to the doctor. A real man spits in his hand and rubs dirt on his wounds, even if it's internal. And besides, if God didn't want me to drink so much, why would he give me the gift of these really cool eyes? Regardless of how I feel towards doctors, that doesn't stop other people from seeking them out. I mean, inshallah, I thank the Holy Prophet every single day that I don't live in another country because my partner is a full-on hypochondriac. And if I lived in any other part of the globe, I would have been in financial ruin by now with the amount of times they've gone to the ER. If you hear a touch of resentment in my voice, I assure you that's not the case. I full-on hate that hoe. It's because they don't even try my suggestions. It's really frustrating. Like, one of the things they really struggle with is mental health. So they go through these fits of depression. And every single time I'm like, what, have you even eaten dirt? Why the f*** do you keep telling me to eat dirt, they say? Well, you haven't tried it, have you, dumbass? So how do you know if it's gonna work? But speaking of trying, I'm already hesitant on trying my local doctor. So it's a bit of a shocker to me when I found out about the cult of personality surrounding TikTok doctors. It is unbelievably insane how many doctors there are on TikTok and YouTube being personalities. And I get why. There's huge money to be made. People find the insides of their bodies incredibly fascinating. They want to explore every part of it. So it's kind of cool when someone shows up on your For You page, for example, and gives you some mad facts and information as well as entertaining you at the same time. It makes learning interesting. And believe me when I say these doctors come in all shapes and sizes. And that size is mostly hot. Oh yeah, homie, you best believe that these doctors, the popular ones at least on the socials, almost always extremely attractive. And it makes sense if you think about it. Why would an attractive person not join social media and rake in millions and millions off dropping mad medical knowledge? Hell, I covered somebody recently who was pretending to be a doctor in order to try and get their grubby little fingers in that piggy bank. I even made sure to make the point in that video, which is probably showing up right now if you're interested in it, that if the chap was just a little bit more attractive, he probably could have got away with it for a bit longer. And speaking of the word attractiveness, I can finally go testes deep into the main crux of this video. I'm like a barracuda in that way. I have to wait until the opportunity arises for me to strike! Like if a 2-for-1 deal is going on in Tesco, or if that elderly woman I've been eyeing up finally becomes a widow. Hold my drink. Your boy about to get gummed. My perversions for the elderly aside, this video relates more towards people who are trying to stay attractive and young forever. And it relates to the former Dr. Roxy, who should be now referred to as Mrs. Roxy, which is a point we'll get into later. The former Dr. Roxy was quite a popular TikTok creator, and before she blew up online, she was also a very wealthy practitioner with an extremely successful plastic surgery business. To start off with, her account was more or less harmless. It was very much that millennial core-esque kind of cookie-cutter renegade nonsense, where she did cringy dances and talked in a cringy way, which my main complaint about it was more the fact that she pretended to be overly happy. That's a personal gripe of mine. I don't like anybody who's not miserable, even myself who has such a fantastic, loving life, and I still want to jump out of a 2-story building every single day. Just like you as the viewer are well aware, if the oak you are watching is not entertaining you or at least making you laugh or stepping up their game, you will move on. I'm just as guilty of this, as there's hundreds of YouTubers that have fallen to the wayside for me simply because they weren't entertaining enough or weren't trying new things. So when the millennial dancers weren't working anymore, Dr. Roxy had to move on. And so Dr. Roxy had the bright idea to start live streaming her surgeries, with her patient's consent of course. Now, not for nothing guys, out of my own personal experience, as someone who's had multiple cosmetic surgeries to reduce the massive size of their giant penis, the idea of my doctor holding a scalpel and cutting my massive hog open terrifies me. But then to have that doctor at the same time also be responding to chat comments, well, it seems a little bit horrifying. Thankfully, I'm not the only one who seems to have this line of thinking, as the Ohio Medical Board, the people who gave her license originally, Mrs. Roxy, found it more than a little bit concerning that she was doing this, and as such gave her a stern warning in a letter to cut that shit out. They also further informed her that she is now mandatorily required to attend ethics classes and classes on professionalism. Now you would think that this little pre-warning, this little tickle tip, would have been all of the incentive that Dr. Roxy needed to cut it out. I mean, for Christ's sake, she's already incredibly successful. Who cares if she has millions of followers? Well, apparently Dr. Roxy does, because in spite of being warned and told off, she persisted with her behavior and found yet another willing participant to be a part of her Frankenstein freak show. This patient in particular was after a liposuction and a Brazilian butt lift. If you're unfamiliar with either, liposuction is the procedure where they take fat out of your stomach, skinny bitch surgery, and a BBL surgery is when they lift up your ass to make it firmer and thicker, sometimes in absolute excess, which is just too much ass. So they shook hands and both agreed to it. Dr. Roxy gets get some more clout, and this lady gets something out of it, which I'm not entirely sure. She was just a fan of her. However, here's the point of the story where the cracks begin to form. As rightfully predicted, being distracted while doing a major operation, cosmetic or not, is an absolutely atrocious idea, and unsurprisingly had led to complications. A couple days after the surgery took place, the woman in question who had the BBL returned to Dr. Roxy and complained about serious illnesses. She felt unwell, she felt unsteady on her feet, which can happen with any major surgery. So props to Dr. Roxy, she did send her to the ER, where it was discovered that her brain function was starting to shut down and she was having major liver malfunctions. Now thankfully for our BBL woman, she was stabilized, but because of how much money she spent on this surgery and what she felt was medical malpractice, she filed a lawsuit. And initially that lawsuit also included 2 other plaintiffs, who were also alleged victims of Dr. Roxy's unprofessionalism and botched surgeries. To cut a long story short, the lawsuits and the impending fallout caught the attention of the Ohio Medical State Board, who, as I might remind you, already doesn't hold Dr. Roxy in very high regard. After a short, quick trial, Dr. Roxy's medical license was revoked permanently, meaning her practice shut down and all of her employees lost their job over some TikTok clout. Dr. Roxy now has no license, Dr. Roxy now has no TikTok account because she privated and deleted all of her videos, and Dr. Roxy now has no bans. As with all things, when it rains it pours, and those 3 plaintiffs who allegedly had complaints against Dr. Roxy's malpractice has now ballooned into 14 plaintiffs, all involved in individual cases and a class action lawsuit. I'm actually not sure if that's the correct term, but basically they're all suing her together. As of right now, we're completely unaware of where Dr. Roxy has gone to, as everything she ever owned under the sun has gone to private mode, but I can only assume that she's bricking herself to death. Not to get all Sunday school teacher on you homies, but I feel like there's a lesson to be learned here. As much as I do want to blame Dr. Roxy, and I do blame her because she was a blossoming successful career woman who threw away all of her success over a few likes and follows on a meaningless app that can disappear tomorrow. But I am also very much victim blaming. Like all of you ladies who are suing. Walked into a doctor's office where you saw her do TikTok trend dances and talk to a live stream chat while she was operating on another human being and expected utmost professionalism from this person. Off, you idiots. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. This lady literally has someone on the table and someone was going, chat, is this a W or an L pair of guts? Oh, Aiden Ross Phantom Tax. Oh, that's so mega lols. I don't know if any of these terms are correct. I've never watched the live stream. But still, come on, the writing was on the wall, dude. Now granted, does that mean this woman gets to kill you? I mean, if you were gonna ask me for my personal opinion, yes, because you're an idiot and you kind of deserved it. But if you were gonna ask the law, then no. And if you were gonna ask the law if you had to legally subscribe to Dino, that's a yes. That's kind of where I have to leave today's story. If and when an update comes out, I'll be making a part 2 towards this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.